Hello and welcome to Tbilisi, the capital city of Georgia. In this video I'm going to take you through the city and talk you through my process for doing documentary style street photography. Straight off the bat, I really like the texture of this wall, and to make it a bit more engaging I used a slow shutter speed to show the movement of passers-by. I'm looking to capture moments but also snippets of the environment I'm into. Here I noticed these flower sellers. It was colourful and had a nice buzz about the area. People with flowers was definitely a trigger of mine while I was in Georgia and Armenia, and I wanted to sort of capture the vibrant start of spring. I particularly like the gesture and eye contact in this second image. I'm always looking for gestures and things happening in a frame. Rather than taking a photo of any old thing, I'm looking to find that little twist that makes a photo just that little bit more compelling. I'm looking for subjects here, and I noticed this girl with some flowers and tried to frame up an interesting composition. Sometimes I just get a feeling that a shot is there to be had in a certain location. I just work the scene until I come away with a couple of frames that I like. The reason why I call this approach documentary street photography is that I'm always looking to document a place or a moment or a time with the photos I take. But while I take a documentary approach, because what I photograph is dictated by chance and I do street photography in loads of different locations, this for me is different to pure documentary photography, which I feel is sort of more about spending time in a place and capturing stories through multiple images. But the two genres of photography definitely cross over a lot, and that's probably a topic for a whole separate video. What I really love about street photography is the complete lack of control over what happens on any given day. You just have to observe, and if you're lucky something will happen and you'll then need to make the most of it with your camera. Of course things don't happen all the time, so when I'm walking I just observe and practice. There's nothing stand out about this photo, but it caught my eye and I took the image anyway, and it's a nice sort of mixture of textures and shapes. When I'm trying to document a place, I'm always on the lookout for characters, as to me that's what makes a place interesting, the people that live there. Documentary style street photography doesn't just have to be up close photos of people. In fact, I like to try and get multiple different kinds of scenes to show an overview of a place. For example here, this photo focuses more on the environment than a moment, but I like the colours and the tones of this scene, and alongside more busier frames shown together, it gives more of a story of a place rather than just a load of the same idea over and over again. At the moment I love to shoot with a 35mm full frame equivalent lens for many reasons, one of which I find it constricting, so it makes me more creative, which I love. However, some scenes like this one would probably benefit from a longer lens, but that's just the trade-off you have if you choose to shoot with a prime lens. Here I headed down into the metro, which was so interesting, especially from my point of view, as the sort of old Soviet style architecture and atmosphere is so far removed from that of the UK. I really like the colour tones and shapes here, as well as the subject that fits into the scene really well. It's kind of bleak and depressing, but that's what I wanted to capture. That's the sort of emotion that I felt when I was there, so that's what I wanted to convey in the image. Here I'm going for simply capturing the environment. It's a pretty easy photo to take, as sort of all photos of people looking down at their phones are, but again I think this image works well as part of a series, and it just does document a little bit of the flavour of the underground in Tbilisi. It was here I realised you're not allowed to take photos of this part of the metro, but I managed to get a sneaky one of a person in the security box. I like the kid in the background as well as the other mysterious figure. It's timeless with the old school phone, and I also like the pop of red from the hat. I took a lot of photos on the metro, but it was difficult to film as well, so here are a few shots I missed on video. I'll be posting more photos from this trip on my Instagram soon, so say hi there. Documentary style street photography doesn't always have to tell a story. It's absolutely fine to take photos just for their nice aesthetics. For example here, this is just a person on their phone, but I really love the colours and her outfit, and there's something about the scene I really like that still documents the feel of the city. People often ask me how I feel about photographing children in public. Personally, I want to document life on the street, so if I don't include children, that would mean missing out on documenting what the streets are really like. I never take photos in public with malicious intent. I just take photographs of things I find interesting, and sometimes that includes kids. Legally, in the UK, you can photograph anyone or anything in a public place, but it's really up to you what you think is appropriate or not according to your own ethical standards, which is a topic for a whole other video. Talking about ethics briefly though, and I really don't like people who have animals in captivity for performance to make money. For example, this guy with his parrot and monkey. You kind of have to hope they look after them well, but I'm not judging with my photography, I'm documenting. So I decided to take photos of this guy with his monkey and parrot, and I actually really quite like them. Whether you agree with it or not, I'm not taking tourist photos and paying him money, which perpetuates an issue like that. I'm documenting what I see for the viewer to get insight into the environment of the place that I'm in. And it's really up to you if you like the photos or not, but either way, I'd like to hope they get the viewer thinking. I have my own ethical and political views, but when I'm out on the street, I photograph anything that I find interesting without prejudice. I purely want to document the moments I see. If you're an activist or want to document a specific thing, then that's great, and I really believe the skills honed photographing a lot on the street can translate so well to more specific documentary or photojournalism projects. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, please hit the like button and drop a comment below. It really helps spread the video to more people to enjoy, so thank you if you choose to do that. One of the things that I really love about street photography is it gives you a reason to be somewhere. So I'm in a new place, aimlessly wandering around instead of rushing from one tourist site to another. I really like these two photos from this orange juice seller. The colours, the shapes and the subjects, which I think tell a nice story, just happened upon completely by chance. You're never in the right or wrong place, you're just where you are at any given moment in time. And I just want to document the interesting things I see where I find myself, which is less about being a photojournalist and more about just documenting singular moments that catch my eye, building up skills and ideas that might result in working on specific projects down the line. Here I was so wrapped up in taking photos that I forgot to get much video footage, which is a bit of a shame because I really love this scene. There are a bunch of young people out and about in the evening doing traditional dance and just living life. Politically, Georgia is going through some tough times at the moment and there were big protests while we were out in the city, but I wanted to capture the freedom that I saw on the street in the face of big changes and turmoil in the country and on their borders. This is why I love a documentary approach to street photography. You can capture moments in time that are so fleeting, you never know what will happen in the future, and I want a record of what I've seen to look back on down the line. Religion is a big deal to Georgians, and while of not much interest to myself personally, it was important to me to document the religious side of the city and Georgia as a whole. I visited this massive cathedral as it's one of the big things to do and see in the city, but it's also super impressive. I wanted to capture the monumental size of the cathedral, so I waited for a singular person to walk past to highlight the scale of the place. When I'm travelling, I'm always looking to document the behaviour of tourists, which I always find fascinating. Here I aim to frame up a balanced composition, and I really like the colours, shapes and textures of the scene. Again, having a camera gives you a reason to be out and go to places that you would usually never visit. If I didn't have a camera, I'm not sure I would have gone inside so many churches, but because I did, I was able to capture some intimate moments and really scratch the surface of how important religion is to the people that live here. I've been working on getting a bit closer and trying to capture more busy scenes, and here I thought it was interesting that all these people were looking and pointing in the same direction. If I just took a photo of a crowd, then to me it's pretty boring, but if there's something happening, an action or gesture or a focal point, that's when I'll look to make an image. I really liked something about this scene. Again, I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, so I decided to stick around for a while and work the scene a bit. This photo isn't really a documentary style photo, but I do like its aesthetically pleasing light and shapes. I could see the potential for more photos here, and I just needed some subjects. So I was patient and waited for some more people to come along and move through the scene. Again, I was looking for gestures or eye contact or something to make the photos a little bit more engaging than just someone walking past a wall. I missed this one on GoPro, but there's just something about the light, this scene, and the writing on his shirt, coupled with his gesture and body position that I really like. What's he guilty about? When travelling in a foreign city, it's always a hub of activity and life when you go to a big market. So we headed to the biggest market in the city to try and document the unfolding of daily life. Strangely, when we arrived, we saw Jamie Oliver filming a documentary, which was a bit unexpected, but with all the cameras around and activity, it meant I was able to get a few shots of people handily without them noticing me. Markets are quite hard because we've all seen photos of markets before, and once you've taken a couple of photos of people selling stuff, then what is there to separate your photos of a market to other people's? The same goes for parades and other kinds of events like that. It's hard to get original shots, but if you're documenting a place, you don't have to make a super original image every time. You can just focus on documenting what you see in front of you. Then your style and your skills will develop over time. I tried to show a slightly different perspective on the market, and I'll put up a few of the shots I got here that I quite like. Though I have to admit, I found it pretty challenging, so I decided to hit the fringes of the market instead, looking for little scenes and moments worth documenting there. I noticed this lady here with an eye patch, and I'm not sure if it's something that a non-photographer would like so much. There's a bit of a trend I found in street photographers capturing people with eye patches, but I took the photo nonetheless, and I do like it. The eye patch has a bit of a story, and the light is really nice too. On the fringes of the market, I got a couple of photos that I really like. I was looking for colours, textures, shapes, and the human element, and I think these couple of photos document the market area quite well. Stand back a second. Great moments happen so rarely on the street, and you really have to be out as much as possible to give yourself the best chance of documenting different or unusual things out in the world, which can be difficult to do depending on where you live, though I do believe that wherever there are people, there'll be things worth documenting with your camera. When moments are so few and far between, if you sense something is going to happen, then I always recommend to keep shooting. For example, here I kept shooting until the right moment presented itself, and I'm really happy with this shot where you can only see the person's hand. The textures, light, shapes, and moment all work well together. I really liked this street and came back a few times while I was in Tbilisi, so I'll put up a few of the photos that I captured in this location that I missed on video. We did a bit of travelling out into the mountains, and for me these days, although it's beautiful to see, I'm less interested in photographing the landscape and much more excited about photographing the people visiting it. Here I really worked on photographing the behaviour of the tourists, in part inspired by Martin Parr's work on global tourism, which may or may not end up in being a longer term project down the line. As I said, I'm looking to capture people and their behaviour, so gestures, shapes, moments, as well as trying to create balanced compositions. And here we travelled out to this amazing monument on the edge of Tbilisi city. Again, rather than photograph the monument, I was looking to capture the behaviour of tourists visiting the site. I had been looking at some of Alex Webb's work in the morning, so that's probably what influenced me here to try and capture a more layered scene, which Alex Webb is obviously known for doing so well. And I love being influenced by the photographers. It really helps me grow as a photographer, learn new skills, try out different ideas, and ultimately make better photographs in the long run. I really like this photograph, and I think it stands out because it was a bit of a strange thing to see, especially if you look at the photograph out of context. This one makes you ask a lot of questions, at least it does for me. Again, just trying to document the place, trying to observe and catch little human moments among the new and exciting landscape so different to what it's like back home. I really like this one too, just a simple shot with the dog lying down, but what makes it interesting is it's mimicking the shape of the person in the sculpture behind. Simple shot, but again one that works well in a series alongside the other photos from this location. If you have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments. I really love talking about all things street photography. As always, a massive thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.